The afterlife deception. Trap or transcendence? What truly happens in the moments after our last breath? We paint pictures of light, of peace, of reunion, comforting narratives against the great unknown. But whispers from the world's oldest spiritual traditions tell a different story. Not of a simple destination, but of a complex threshold, an intermediate state where the very fabric of reality seems to warp and shift, mirroring the soul that passes through it. What if the light isn't a place, but a phenomenon within that threshold? One that might not always lead where we expect. We hear accounts, near-death experiences, often remarkably similar. Yet, ancient texts also warn of tests, illusions, even deceptive guides in the realms beyond life. This hints at a divergence. Some souls navigate this space and find true liberation, returning to source. Others, seemingly, get drawn back, recycled into form. What determines the path? Is it preordained? Or is it fundamentally about the consciousness we bring to that threshold? Could our unresolved ego, our attachments, our lack of awareness, be the very things that prevent us from seeing clearly in that critical state? Are NDEs the whole picture, or just tantalizing glimpses into a much larger, more complex process? This exploration isn't about fear, but about awareness. We'll delve into the idea that the afterlife isn't guaranteed peace, but a critical juncture, a moment profoundly shaped by the clarity we cultivate, the illusions we cling to, and our ability to recognize home when we finally see it. Part 1. The Bardo, Mirror of the Soul. So, what is this threshold state? Imagine shedding the weight of the physical body. The anchor is gone. What remains is pure consciousness, adrift in a space unbound by familiar laws. This is the state traditions like Tibetan Buddhism call the Bardo, the in-between. This isn't a passive void, it's intensely active, intensely personal. The Bardo is a psychic field where your own mind becomes the architect, the painter, the projector. The reality you experience is woven directly from the threads of your own consciousness, your beliefs, your memories, your deepest patterns. This is the ultimate self-confrontation. Not a judgment from outside, but an unavoidable encounter with the totality of your being. Your hidden fears wear demonic masks, your attachments whisper siren songs, your unresolved desires build phantom landscapes. The weighing of the heart happens here, reflected in the very fabric of the reality you perceive. Without clarity, without awareness, it's terrifyingly easy to get lost. The crucial realization, the key to navigating this space is this: the illusions, the guides, the demons, they are mirrors of your own consciousness. They hold power only if you believe they are external, separate realities. And this is where the cycle can repeat. Mistake a powerful thought form for a god, follow a deceptive light born of your own desire, cling to a familiar feeling, and you might find yourself consenting, consciously or unconsciously, to another turn on the wheel, another life sentence dictated by illusion. Part 2. The lure of the false light. Given this subjective, mirror-like nature of the Bardo, what then are we to make of those recurring stories? The near-death experiences, that almost predictable pattern, the tunnel, the overwhelming light, the life review, the feeling of love, often followed by a sense of duty, or being told it's not your time, urging a return. It's a narrative deeply embedded in our modern understanding of the afterlife. But let's ask the uncomfortable questions, the ones that challenge this comforting picture. Why this specific pattern so often? And more pointedly, if returning to the cycle of rebirth, if reincarnation, was a truly natural, inevitable process, why would the system seem to need our consent? Why the apparent focus on emotional leverage? Why the persuasion? This is where ancient Gnostic and esoteric warnings become chillingly relevant. They speak of a potential trap woven into the very fabric of the afterlife threshold. a false light. Not the infinite, unmanifest source, but a brilliant imitation, perhaps orchestrated by those forces, call them archons, call them gatekeepers, interested in keeping souls bound to the wheel of incarnation. How does this potential deception work? By playing on the soul's deepest vulnerabilities, magnified in the Bardo state. It preys on guilt from the life review, amplifying regrets. It exploits attachment, showing illusions of loved ones needing you, unfinished business demanding your return. It offers the seductive promise of another chance to fix mistakes. It might even mimic trusted divine figures, urging you back out of a sense of self-imposed obligation. It convinces the soul, lost in emotion and illusion, to agree to return. Here lies the crucial distinction whispered in hidden teachings. The false light pulls you, calls to you with familiar faces, manipulates you with emotional appeals, insists you have duties left undone. It needs your energy, your agreement. But the true source, the ultimate reality beyond the demiurge's system, it doesn't demand, it doesn't persuade, it doesn't manipulate. It simply is, infinite, still, available only to the soul clear enough to perceive it and sovereign enough to choose it, free from the lure of the familiar prison. Part 3. The path of liberation. But entrapment by the false light, the pull of attachment. This is not the inevitable fate of every soul. There is another path, a path of liberation available to the consciousness that arrives at the threshold, prepared, aware, and sovereign. How does such a soul navigate this critical juncture? It begins with recognition. Having cultivated awareness during life, this soul sees the dramatic visions of the Bardo for what they are. Projections, mirrors of mind, not ultimate reality. The terrifying figures hold no power. The seductive illusions offer no true solace. They are observed, acknowledged, and allowed to pass without entanglement. When the false light appears, pulsing with emotional energy and familiar forms, the aware soul recognizes the signature of manipulation. It feels the pull of attachment, the echo of guilt from the life review, but it does not identify with them. It understands these are hooks designed to snag the unwary consciousness. There is no emotional entrapment because the soul knows these feelings are part of the illusion, not intrinsic commands. Crucially, this soul doesn't identify with the ego construct of the past life. The memories, the relationships, the sense of I that defined its earthly existence, these are seen as temporary roles played, not the eternal essence of being. Attachments are acknowledged, perhaps with compassion, but they are not chains that bind. And in this state of clarity and non-attachment, the soul asserts its sovereignty. It does not need permission to proceed. It does not engage with the gatekeepers or tricksters attempting to redirect it. It simply refuses consent to the cycle of manipulation. It chooses its own direction, guided by an inner knowing that recognizes its true origin. Where does this path lead? Not back to another earthly life born of illusion and obligation. It leads home, to the true, unmanifest source. Call it nirvana, the Godhead, the pleroma, Christ consciousness, Buddha nature. The names vary, but the essence is the same. Pure, undifferentiated being, beyond the cycles of birth and death, beyond the reach of the demiurge and its illusions. This liberation isn't a reward passively granted. It is the natural outcome for a consciousness that has done the work, the difficult, necessary inner transformation during life to see beyond illusion and reclaim its inherent connection to the divine. It is earned. Part 4. Breaking the cycle. Preparation. If liberation is earned through awareness cultivated during life, the crucial question then becomes, how do we prepare? How do we develop the consciousness needed to navigate that transition and avoid the recycling trap? The answer, echoed across esoteric traditions, is that the preparation happens now, within this life. One powerful concept is dying before you die. This isn't physical death, but the conscious practice of ego death while alive. It's about recognizing the I, the personality, the collection of beliefs, memories, and attachments we call me, as a temporary construct, the false self. By learning to disidentify from this ego, to see beyond its limitations and fears during life, we drastically reduce its power to cling and create illusions after death. We loosen its grip before the final letting go. Another vital training ground, our dreams and sleep. Traditions like Tibetan dream yoga view the sleep state as a mini bardo. The consciousness enters a non-physical, fluid realm every night. By cultivating lucid dreaming, becoming consciously aware within the dream state, and practicing sleep awareness, we are essentially rehearsing for the bardo. We learn to recognize illusion, maintain clarity amidst shifting realities, and navigate non-physical spaces with intention. It's bardo training wheels. Beyond these specific practices, the core preparation involves dedicated spiritual work aimed at achieving soul sovereignty. This means recognizing and dismantling the ego, constantly questioning who is thinking, feeling, reacting. It involves shadow work, bravely confronting and integrating the rejected aspects of our psyche, because those unacknowledged parts are precisely what can manifest as terrifying projections in the bardo. It requires healing attachments, consciously loosening our grip on earthly identities, beliefs, and even our own life story, because attachments are the hooks the false light uses. It demands practicing present moment awareness to train the mind to stay centered and recognize illusions. And finally, studying esoteric wisdom, Gnostic texts, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, Hermetics, helps create a mental map of the territory, allowing us to recognize the signposts when we encounter them. This isn't about achieving some static state of perfection. It's about the ongoing commitment to self-awareness, detachment, integration, and understanding the true nature of reality and the self. It's about building the muscle of conscious awareness so that when the physical anchor is released, the soul is prepared, clear, and ready to choose liberation over illusion. The journey beyond life, as depicted in the hidden corners of wisdom traditions, is far more complex than we often allow ourselves to imagine. Not a simple destination, but a mirror reflecting the consciousness we carry. A threshold where the illusions we clung to in life can become snares, where the false light can masquerade as salvation, potentially trapping the unwary soul in a cycle of rebirth. Yet, within that same threshold lies the possibility of transcendence, the path home for the soul that has awakened to its true nature and shed the chains of ego and attachment. This understanding reframes our entire existence. It suggests that death is not an ending to fear, but a transition to prepare for. The critical question echoes back from that threshold into this very moment. What state of being are you cultivating right now? Will you arrive at that ultimate transition lost in the fog of illusion, weighed down by regret, easily manipulated back into the familiar cycle? Or will you cultivate the clarity, the sovereignty, the inner knowing required to navigate the illusions, bypass the traps, and make the conscious choice to return to the infinite source? But here's the thing, no one wants to admit. You won't rise to the occasion in that final moment. You'll fall to the level of your training. The afterlife doesn't hand out enlightenment like candy. It reflects back the frequency you brought with you. And so, the only question that matters is the one staring you in the face right now. Are you cultivating the clarity to see through illusion? Or will you mistake familiarity for truth and consent to the cycle again? The trap is subtle. The escape, simple, but never easy. And when that moment comes, You won't be asked what you believed. You'll be shown what you are. So become it now.